Your Majesty.
Do you know what greets me when she enters the room?
Sire.
Not roses, not lilies. She smells like a barrel of dead fish baked in the sun.
My lord.
Surely, do you think I jest? Find a remedy, or a way out.
Hey guys, come closer. Tonight I want to tell you about a woman who crossed an ocean to marry a king, lasted 6 months as his wife, and then lived another 17 years in peace while he spiraled into paranoia and pain. A woman who figured out something none of his other wives understood. Sometimes the only way to win is to lose gracefully. You probably know her as the ugly wife, the one Henry VIII rejected, the Flanders Mare, the one who got lucky because Henry let her live. But that's not the story. That's Henry's story, the narrative he created to justify what he did to her. The real story is about a 24-year-old woman named Anne of Cleves who arrived in England expecting a political marriage and instead walked into a trap, who had intimate lies told about her body, who was forced to let strange men examine her genitals and testify about what they found, who had to watch her replacement wear her jewellery, who smiled through all of it because showing anger meant death, and who then lived comfortably for nearly 2 decades, playing cards and wearing gorgeous dresses and giving zero thoughts to the rotting king who tried to destroy her. Before we start, hit that like button if you're enjoying these deep dives. Subscribe if you haven't. Drop a comment telling me where you are and what time it is. I love knowing who's out there listening. Get comfortable. Dim the lights. This one's a journey. Settle in. December 1539. The English Channel in winter. Anne of Cleves is crossing from Calais to Dover in a storm. The ship heaves. Water crashes over the deck. She's in her cabin, holding onto the walls, trying not to vomit. Her German ladies are praying. Some are crying. Anne just focuses on not dying before she even reaches England. She's thinking about her future husband, King Henry VIII. She's seen his portrait by Holbein. Impressive, regal, powerful. She knows the marriage is political, an alliance between England and the German Protestant states against Catholic France and Spain. She's been trained for this her whole life. Marry for duty, produce heirs, support your husband's political goals. She doesn't know Henry is 48 years old, massively overweight, and suffering from a leg ulcer that oozes pus constantly. She doesn't know his third wife died in childbirth 2 years ago. She doesn't know he's desperate to remarry, but terrified of making another mistake after the Anne Boleyn disaster. Most importantly, she doesn't know that within days of meeting her, Henry will decide she disgusts him, and that once Henry decides something, reality has to bend to match his opinion. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start 6 months earlier, in the summer of 1539, when Thomas Cromwell made the worst decision of his career. Thomas Cromwell was Henry's chief minister. Brilliant, ruthless, the man who'd engineered Henry's break from Rome, the dissolution of the monasteries, the execution of Anne Boleyn. He'd survived in Henry's service longer than almost anyone by always knowing what the king wanted before Henry knew himself. In 1539, what Henry wanted was a new wife, someone to replace Jane Seymour, who'd given him a son and then inconveniently died, someone who'd cement Protestant alliances, someone beautiful who'd make him feel young. Cromwell suggested the Duchy of Cleves, small German territory, Protestant, well-positioned. The Duke had 2 unmarried sisters, Anne and Amalia, both reportedly acceptable. He sent envoys to investigate. They came back with positive reports. Anne of Cleves was appropriate, well-educated in household management, modest, pious, everything a queen should be. But Cromwell needed more than verbal reports. He needed a portrait, something to make Henry say yes. So he commissioned Hans Holbein the Younger, the best portrait painter in Europe, a man who understood that royal portraits weren't about capturing reality. They were about creating possibility, about selling a vision. Holbein was German himself, born in Augsburg, trained in Basel. He'd been working in England for years, painting portraits of Henry's court. He knew what English patrons wanted, knew how to make people look their absolute best. He travelled to Cleves in August 1539, arrived with letters of introduction from Cromwell, was received politely by the Duke and his family. Anne was presented to him, this foreign painter who'd come all this way to capture her image. She must have been nervous. This portrait would determine her future. If the King of England liked it, she'd become queen. If he didn't, she'd remain in Cleves, marry some minor German noble, live an ordinary life. Everything depended on Holbein making her look appropriate, acceptable, royal. Holbein studied her, walked around her, examined her face from different angles, asked her to turn this way, that way, stand in different lights. He was looking for her best angle. Everyone has one. The angle that minimizes flaws and emphasizes strengths. For Anne, it was three-quarter profile, turned slightly, not full face where her long features might look too prominent, not pure profile where her nose might seem too strong, but three-quarter, just enough to give dimension, while hiding anything that might be considered imperfect. He had her dressed in her finest gown, dark red, embroidered with gold thread, heavy, rich, the kind of dress that photographs, or in this case, paints, beautifully. The jewellery was carefully chosen. A jewelled headdress, a necklace, everything expensive but not gaudy, royal but not ostentatious. Her hands were positioned just so, folded, calm, ladylike. Her expression was neutral, serious. Not smiling. Smiling in portraits was uncommon, and smiling might reveal imperfect teeth. Just composed, dignified. Holbein worked for days, maybe weeks, sketching first, getting the proportions right, the pose, the lighting, then painting, layer after layer of pigment, building up colour, depth. The rich red of the gown, the gold thread catching light, the pale skin, the serious eyes. He was creating an icon, not a person, an image of ideal German nobility. Modest, appropriate, perfectly suitable for a political marriage. What he wasn't painting. Anne in motion, where you'd see she moved stiffly, unused to English dancing. Anne speaking, where you'd hear only German. Anne in harsh midday light, where her features might look too angular. Anne laughing, showing teeth that probably weren't perfect. Anne off guard, unprepared, just being herself. He painted the best possible version of Anne. The version that would make a king say yes. And it worked. The portrait arrived in England in September 1539. Cromwell presented it to Henry with carefully chosen words. "Your Majesty, Lady Anne of Cleves, painted by Master Holbein, said to be an excellent likeness." Henry looked at it, really looked at it, studied the composed face, the rich clothing, the aura of dignified nobility, and he fell in love. Not with Anne, he'd never met Anne, with the possibility she represented. A beautiful German princess who would adore him, give him sons, be the perfect wife Jane Seymour would have been if she'd lived. He approved the marriage within days, negotiations accelerated, a treaty was signed. Anne of Cleves would become Queen of England. Cromwell must have felt relief and dread, because he'd just bet everything, his career, his safety, probably his life, on Henry liking a real woman as much as he liked her portrait. And portraits lie, not always maliciously, but they lie by omission, by careful staging, by showing only the best angle in the best light with the best expression. The real Anne, three-dimensional, moving, speaking, breathing, would never live up to the two-dimensional image Henry had fallen in love with. Cromwell knew this. Deep down, he knew. But the alliance with Cleves was too important. England needed Protestant allies against Catholic France and Spain. The marriage had to happen. So he sent the portrait, and hoped, and probably prayed that reality wouldn't disappoint too badly. It did. Reality always does when you're in love with an idealised image. But by the time Henry met the real Anne, it was too late. The treaty was signed. Anne was already in England. The wedding was scheduled. Henry was trapped by his own approval, by his own yes to a portrait that promised more than reality could deliver. And Anne? Anne had no idea that Holbein's portrait had set an impossible standard. No idea that she was competing with a perfected version of herself. No idea that failing to match that image would doom her marriage before it even began. She just knew she'd had her portrait painted by a famous artist, and that the King of England had approved, and that she was going to be Queen. She crossed the Channel full of hope and nervousness and determination to do her duty. She had no idea she'd already lost a competition she didn't know she was in. New Year's Day, 1540, Rochester Castle. Anne has been in England for a few days, still recovering from that nightmare Channel crossing. Her stomach still feels like it's rocking even on solid ground. She's adjusting to English food that sits heavy in her belly, English weather that seeps cold into her bones, English everything. She's staying at Rochester as an honoured guest. The castle is massive, draughty, nothing like the comfortable palace in Cleves, but her hosts are trying to make her feel welcome. They've arranged entertainment for this afternoon, a bull baiting in the courtyard below her windows. Anne stands watching. The bull is chained in the centre. Dogs circle, attack, retreat. The crowd roars. Blood spatters the dirt. It's brutal, more violent than anything she's used to, but she maintains her composure, shows appreciation for English hospitality. This is what they arranged for her. She'll watch politely. Her German ladies stand with her. They're uncomfortable too. This isn't how German nobles spend their afternoons. But everyone's trying, adjusting, making the best of this foreign place. That's when Henry bursts in. The door swings open. No announcement, no warning, just this group of men in plain brown wool walking into her private chambers like they have every right. Anne turns from the window, looks at them. She has absolutely no idea who these people are. In her mind, this makes no sense. She's the future queen. Her chambers are supposed to be protected. These men aren't dressed like nobles. They look like merchants or minor officials. What are they doing here? She makes a quick decision. The polite thing to do is acknowledge them briefly and return to the entertainment her hosts provided. So she gives them a small nod, cordial but dismissive, and turns back to the window. The bull has just gored one of the dogs. The crowd erupts. Anne watches, trying to look interested, trying to ignore the strange men behind her. Henry stands there, waiting. Any second now she'll realise who he is. She'll turn around in shock and wonder. She'll fall to her knees. She'll look at him with adoration and recognition, despite the disguise, because true love knows. Nothing happens. Anne keeps watching the bull baiting. One of Henry's courtiers tries to engage her in conversation. He says something cheerful in English. Her interpreter, standing nearby, translates it into German. Something about the weather, about her journey. Polite small talk. Anne responds in German, brief, formal. Yes, the journey was difficult. Yes, I'm settling in well. Thank you for asking. The interpreter translates back. She's being perfectly polite, just also clearly focused on the entertainment below. These random men are interrupting. She's handling it with grace, but without encouraging them to stay. Henry's face starts to redden. His courtiers glance at each other nervously. They know that look. They know what happens when Henry doesn't get what he wants. He tries again, steps closer, says something directly to Anne. His voice has an edge now. The interpreter translates. Anne turns slightly, gives another polite response in German, and returns her attention to the window. She's not being rude. Not really. She's just following what she thinks is proper protocol. There's entertainment happening. Her hosts arranged it. She's supposed to watch it. These men, whoever they are, should understand that. But Henry doesn't understand that. Henry understands that this woman, his future wife, the woman he's about to marry, is treating him like an inconvenience. His jaw clenches. His hands curl into fists at his sides. One of his courtiers touches his arm gently. Perhaps they should go. Perhaps they should come back later, in proper attire. Henry doesn't say anything, just turns and walks out. His footsteps echo down the stone corridor. Angry, heavy. His courtiers follow quickly. The door closes. Anne lets out a small breath. Finally, she returns her full attention to the bull baiting. She has no idea what just happened. No idea she just failed the most important test of her life. In another chamber, Henry is ripping off the brown wool, throwing it on the floor. His gentlemen scramble to help him into proper royal clothing. Heavy velvets, cloth of gold, jewels, everything that screams king. His face is still red. His hands shake slightly as he shoves his arms through sleeves. One of his courtiers tries to smooth this over. "Your Majesty, she didn't know. She's never seen you before. Once you're properly announced." "She should have known," Henry snaps. "She should have felt it." His courtiers exchange glances, say nothing. Henry finishes dressing, adjusts his jewelled chain, takes a breath. "Announce me properly this time." They return to Anne's chambers, this time with proper ceremony. A gentleman usher enters first. "His Majesty, King Henry VIII of England." Anne turns. Her ladies immediately curtsy deeply. Anne follows, dropping low, holding the position. "You may rise," someone says in English. The interpreter translates. Anne stands, looks up, and sees a completely different man from the one who'd interrupted her earlier. This man is magnificent, draped in wealth, authority radiating from every inch of him. This is clearly the king. She speaks formal German greetings. The words she's rehearsed, practiced. Her voice is steady despite her nervousness. She curtsies again. Everything proper, everything correct. The interpreter translates back and forth. Henry says appropriate things. Anne responds appropriately. It's all very formal, very correct. And Henry is looking at her. Really looking at her for the first time. In his mind, he's comparing this woman to the portrait that showed her in perfect lighting, perfect angle, perfectly still. The portrait he'd fallen in love with. This woman is taller than he expected, nearly his height. Her face seems longer in person. Her features stronger, more angular. The elaborate German clothing looks stiff and foreign compared to the flowing English fashions he's used to. She's not ugly. He can see objectively that she's not ugly. But she's not the fantasy. She's not the radiant German princess who is going to make him feel young and desirable. She's just a woman. A normal woman. Nervous and foreign and trying very hard to do the right thing. And she didn't recognize him. That's the part he can't get past. When he walked in disguised, she had no idea. No magical connection. No instant understanding. She treated him like a nuisance. His ego is cracking like ice over water. He stays for an hour, goes through all the proper motions, has polite conversation through interpreters, gives her a formal gift, accepts her thanks, and the whole time he's thinking, is there any way out of this? Any remedy? Finally he leaves, returns to his chambers at Greenwich. The 30-mile ride happens mostly in silence. His courtiers know better than to speak. When he arrives, it's late, after midnight, but he summons Cromwell anyway. Cromwell comes in his nightshirt, terrified. Middle of the night summons from Henry are never good. "I like her not," Henry says, the words that will be recorded for history. "She is nothing like her portrait," he paces, agitated. "Is there no remedy? How can I avoid this marriage?" Cromwell's mind races. The treaty is signed. Anne is already in England. The Duke of Cleves is expecting this alliance. Breaking it off now would be a diplomatic catastrophe. England needs these Protestant alliances, needs them desperately. "Your Majesty," he says carefully, "the wedding is in 6 days. The arrangements are made. Her brother is expecting—" "I don't care what her brother expects," Henry's voice rises. "I will not be yoked to a woman who—" He stops, struggles for words that won't make him sound weak. "Who is nothing like she was presented to be." Cromwell tries. He really tries. Suggests maybe she needs time to adjust. Maybe she'll look better in English clothes. Maybe once they're married, familiarity will help. Once they've consummated, once there's a child, maybe feelings will develop. Henry cuts him off. "You arranged this. You showed me that portrait. You told me she was suitable. The portrait was accurate, Your Majesty, painted by Holbein himself. Then Holbein is a liar, or a fool, or both. Cromwell falls silent. There's nothing he can say that won't make this worse. Henry paces more, then stops, seems to come to a decision. The wedding will proceed. The treaty demands it. But you will find grounds for annulment immediately. Start documenting everything. I want this marriage dissolved the moment it's politically feasible. Yes, Your Majesty. And Cromwell? Henry's voice is quiet now. Dangerous. If you cannot fix this, there will be consequences. Cromwell bows. I understand, Your Majesty. He leaves, returns to his own chambers, and probably doesn't sleep that night, because he knows what consequences means in Henry's court. Execution. Anne, back at Rochester, thinks the visit went well. Her ladies help her prepare for bed. They're excited. The wedding is in 6 days. They've seen the king now. He seemed appropriate. Formal, but appropriate. Did you think him handsome? One of her German ladies asks in German. Anne considers. He looked very royal, she says carefully, not really answering. And in 6 days you'll be queen, another says. Anne smiles, but there's something in her stomach, a small cold feeling. She tells herself it's just nerves. Pre-wedding anxiety, completely normal. What she can't know is that 30 miles away at Greenwich, Cromwell is receiving the worst news of his life. Henry's rage, his demand for a way out, his barely concealed threat. Within 6 months, Thomas Cromwell will be arrested, charged with treason, executed without trial. His head will be displayed on London Bridge as a warning. His crime? Arranging this marriage. This is what happens when you fail to predict a king's desires. But tonight, Anne goes to sleep thinking everything is fine. It's never going to be fine again. January 6th, 1540. The wedding. Anne wakes before dawn. Her ladies come in early to begin preparations. This will take hours. First, the bath. Wooden tub dragged into her chambers, filled with hot water, scented with herbs and oils. Anne climbs in. The water is almost too hot, but it feels good. Loosens the tension in her muscles. Her ladies wash her hair. German ladies doing this. The English ones aren't quite trusted with such an intimate task yet. They use soap, rinse it multiple times. Her hair is long, dark blonde. It takes time to wash thoroughly. Then they dress her. The undershift first, fine linen, then the corset, laced tight. Anne can barely breathe, but that's normal. That's how it's supposed to be. The stockings, garters, slippers, then the kirtle, dark crimson, heavy silk. It goes over her head. It takes 2 women to settle it properly, to arrange the fabric, then the gown. This is the masterpiece, cloth of gold, literally woven with gold thread. It weighs probably 15 pounds, maybe more. It's stiff, rich, catches the light with every movement. The sleeves are separate, tied on with ribbons. They're slashed to show the crimson kirtle underneath, fashionable, expensive. Then the jewellery, a heavy gold chain, gemstones, a crucifix. She's converting to Anglicanism today, abandoning her Lutheran faith. The crucifix is a symbol of that. Her headdress is German style. She hasn't fully adopted English fashion yet. It's elaborate, heavily embroidered, pinned carefully to her hair, which has been braided and coiled. By the time she's fully dressed, Anne looks magnificent, foreign, regal, everything a queen should be. But she also looks wrong for England. The headdress is too severe. The gold gown is too stiff. She looks like a German princess dressed for a German court. The English courtiers will whisper. But it's too late to change now. Anne is escorted to the chapel, Greenwich Palace Chapel. Beautiful, newly renovated, paintings on the walls, stained glass windows, candles everywhere. The chapel is full. Courtiers, nobles, foreign ambassadors, everyone who matters is here to witness this marriage. Anne walks down the aisle, slowly. The gown is so heavy she has to move carefully. The train drags behind her. Pages carry it. Henry is waiting at the altar, dressed as magnificently as she is. Gold and crimson, jewels, the image of royal power. He doesn't smile when he sees her. His face is neutral, controlled. Anne reaches him. They stand side by side. The Archbishop of Canterbury begins the ceremony. Everything is in English. Anne understands maybe half of it. She's been taught her responses, memorized them phonetically. When the Archbishop asks her a question, she responds. The words sound right, even if she's not entirely sure what they mean. Henry responds in English, clear, firm. He's done this before, multiple times. He knows how this works. They exchange rings, gold bands, heavy. Anne's ring is slightly too large. It spins on her finger. She'll have to be careful not to lose it. The final blessing. They kneel. The Archbishop places his hands on their heads. Prays in Latin. At least Latin Anne understands. Then it's done. They're married. Anne is Queen of England. Henry stands, offers his hand. Anne takes it. They walk back down the aisle together. Man and wife. The courtiers bow and curtsy as they pass. Everyone is smiling, celebrating. This is a joyous occasion. A new queen, a new beginning. Only Anne can feel Henry's hand. It's holding hers loosely, without warmth, like he's performing a duty, not celebrating a marriage. But she smiles, keeps her face serene. This is what's expected. The feast is elaborate. Hours and hours of food and drink and entertainment. The great hall is decorated. Tapestries. Flowers despite it being January. Expensive hothouse flowers. Candles everywhere, making the room bright and hot. The high table is on a raised platform. Anne and Henry sit in the centre. The most important nobles sit on either side. Everyone else fills tables arranged throughout the hall. Course after course arrives. Roasted meats, whole pigs, swans, peacocks, fish dishes, elaborate pies, pastries, fruits in syrup. Anne tries to eat. The English food is rich, heavy, different from what she's used to. The spices are strange. Some dishes she recognises, others are completely foreign. She takes small bites, chews carefully, tries to look like she's enjoying herself. Henry eats heartily, drinks heavily. Wine, ale. He's talking to the courtiers on his other side, laughing, animated. He doesn't speak to Anne, doesn't include her in conversations. When someone addresses her directly, an interpreter translates. She responds. The interpreter translates back. It's awkward, stilted, everyone can feel it. Musicians play between courses, loud, cheerful, covering the silences. There's dancing after the meal. The nobles form sets, perform elaborate English dances, fast, energetic, requiring perfect timing. Anne watches. She doesn't know these dances well enough to participate. Not yet. Maybe someday. Henry doesn't dance either. His leg hurts too much. He sits at the high table, drinking, watching. Anne sits beside him, also watching, also drinking, though more moderately. People approach them, congratulate them, wish them happiness and many sons. Anne smiles, thanks them in her careful English. Henry responds more warmly to the well-wishers than he does to Anne. He's charming, gracious, every inch the generous king. With Anne he's cold, formal, barely there. The feast continues for hours, 6 hours, 7. Anne loses track. Her gown is so heavy, the corset so tight, she can barely breathe, can't eat much, just wants it to be over. Finally, as evening turns to night, the bedding ceremony begins. This is what everyone's been waiting for, the consummation, the moment that makes everything official. Anne is taken from the great hall by the ladies, led through corridors to the royal bedchamber, the room she'll share with Henry from now on. It's enormous, dominated by the bed, huge 4-poster with heavy curtains. The bedding is rich, expensive. Everything in the room screams wealth and power. The ladies undress her, layer by layer, the heavy gold gown, the crimson kirtle, the corset. Blessed relief when that comes off. Everything, until she's naked. standing in the centre of the room, while women she barely knows look at her body, assess her. Some of them make comments. Anne doesn't understand all the English, but she can guess. They're probably saying she's too thin, too tall, her breasts too small. Something critical. They bring the nightgown, white linen, plain compared to her wedding gown. It slides over her head, falls to her ankles. They lead her to the bed. She climbs up. It's so high she needs the step, slides under the covers. Cold linen despite the fire roaring in the hearth. The ladies position her, arrange her hair on the pillow, smooth the nightgown, make her look presentable. Then they step back. Wait, the door opens. Henry enters with his gentleman. He's in his nightshirt, white linen straining over his massive frame. Anne sees his leg, that bandage, already stained. The smell reaches her. She keeps her face neutral, doesn't react. Henry climbs into bed. The whole frame creaks. The mattress sags toward him. The attendants make their jokes. Everyone laughs. Even Anne manages a smile, though she doesn't understand the words. Then finally, they leave. Close the door. Draw the curtains around the bed most of the way, and Anne and Henry are alone, for the first time as husband and wife. What happens next has already been covered. Henry's attempt, his failure, his silent retreat to his side of the bed. But Anne lies there afterward thinking, this is my life. Now, this strange country, this cold man, this massive bed where we don't touch. This is what she left Germany for, what she crossed the Channel for, what she gave up her family and her language and her home for. And it's nothing like she imagined. She doesn't cry. She's too shocked to cry, just lies there in the dark, listening to Henry eventually fall asleep, and wondering what happens next. What happens next is 6 months of slow misery, and then destruction, and then survival. But lying there on her wedding night, Anne doesn't know that yet. She just knows something is very, very wrong, and she has no idea how to fix it. Around 10 o'clock, the bedding ceremony begins. This is standard procedure for royal weddings, public, witnessed, humiliating in its formality. Anne is taken to the royal bedchamber by her English ladies. The German ones have been left behind. This is an English ceremony now. The women chatter as they work. Anne understands maybe 1 word in 5. They unlace her wedding gown. Layer after layer comes off. The heavy outer gown, the kirtle beneath, the underkirtle, the chemise, everything. She stands there naked while strange women look at her, assess her. One of them says something and the others laugh. Anne has no idea if they're laughing at her or just making wedding night jokes. She tries to smile, to seem unbothered. They bring out her nightgown, thin linen. It's January. The fire in the hearth is roaring, but the chamber is still cold. Stone walls hold cold like they're storing it. The nightgown slides over her head, does nothing to warm her. They lead her to the bed. It's enormous. Curtains of heavy fabric hang from a wooden frame. The mattress is piled high with blankets, furs, pillows. She climbs up. It's so tall she practically has to hoist herself, and slides under the covers. The ladies arrange her. Hair spread on the pillow, just so. Nightgown smoothed, hands folded on top of the blankets. She's being positioned like a doll, made ready for her husband. One of them pats her hand, says something in English. The tone is reassuring. Anne nods, tries to look calm. They leave her there, sitting up against the pillows, waiting. The door opens again. Henry enters. With him are his gentlemen. A small crowd of men who've known him for years, who've dressed him, advised him, covered for him. Henry is wearing his nightshirt, white linen that strains across his massive frame. His legs are visible below the hem, tree trunks of legs. And on the left one, that bandage, huge, wrapped around his thigh, already stained yellow and brown, even though it must have been changed recently. The smell hits Anne even from across the room. Rot, decay, something sweet and putrid underneath. She tries not to react, keeps her face neutral. The gentlemen help Henry to the bed. He climbs up with difficulty. His weight makes the entire frame creak. The mattress sags dramatically on his side. Anne shifts slightly. trying to stay on her side, not to mar. Roll toward him, one of the gentlemen makes a joke, something about fertility and strong sons. Everyone laughs. Even Henry manages a smile, though it doesn't reach his eyes. Another gentleman says something to Anne. She doesn't understand. He repeats it louder, as if volume will help. One of the women translates into German. "His Grace wishes you a pleasant evening," Anne nods. "Thank you," she says, in careful English, the phrase she's practiced. More laughter, approving nods. The foreign bride speaks English, how charming. Then finally, they all leave. Bow, curtsy, back out of the room, close the door. The curtains around the bed are drawn, but not fully closed. Enough gap to let in some firelight. Henry and Anne are alone. For the first time ever, two people who can barely speak to each other, forced into the most intimate situation possible. Anne doesn't know what to do. She's been told this will happen, that her husband will do something. She doesn't have details, just vague euphemisms about wifely duties, about submitting, about enduring. She waits for Henry to make the first move. Henry lies there on his side of the bed. His leg is throbbing. It always throbs at night. The pain worse when he's lying down. The ulcer is deep, goes almost to the bone. His doctors say it needs to drain. That sealing it completely would trap the poison inside. So it drains, constantly, into the bandages that have to be changed twice a day. The smell is always there. He's gotten used to it, stopped noticing most of the time. But he notices Anne's face when he walked in. That tiny flicker, the way her nostrils flared slightly before she controlled her expression. She thinks he's disgusting. He knows she thinks he's disgusting. And that knowledge, that certainty, makes everything harder. He turns slightly toward her. She turns toward him. Her face in the dim firelight looks young, nervous. She's trying to be brave. He reaches out, touches her arm through the nightgown. She doesn't pull away. That's good. He leans in, kisses her. Her lips are closed, tight. She tastes like wine from the wedding feast. He pulls back, looks at her face. She's not showing any emotion, not pleasure, not disgust, just waiting. He tries again, reaches for her more purposefully now. His hand finds her breast through the thin linen. She stiffens slightly, but doesn't resist. His body should be responding, should be preparing for what comes next. He's done this before. 3 wives, numerous mistresses. He knows how this works. Nothing's happening. He tries to focus, thinks about other women. Women who'd wanted him, who'd made him feel powerful and desirable. Jane Seymour, sweet and compliant. Anne Boleyn before everything went wrong, when she'd been exciting and forbidden. Still nothing. Anne lies there. His hand is on her breast, but nothing else is happening. She doesn't understand. Is this how it works? Is this the beginning of something? Or is something wrong? Henry pulls his hand back, tries a different approach, kisses her neck, her collarbone. His hand moves down her body, over her stomach, between her legs. And that's when he notices it, or thinks he notices it. A smell, not perfume, not rosewater, something else, something off. Is it real? Is he imagining it? Is it just the smell from his own leg that he's suddenly hyper-aware of? Or is it really coming from her? He pulls back again, lies on his back, stares at the canopy above. Anne doesn't move, doesn't ask what's wrong. She probably assumes this is normal, that marriage nights are awkward and confusing. Henry tries one more time, reaches for her, attempts to perform, to do what's required. His body refuses, completely, utterly. There's nothing happening, no arousal, no interest, just failure. How long does he try? 20 minutes? An hour? It feels like forever. Eventually, he gives up, rolls away from her, lies on his side of the bed facing away, says nothing, no explanation, no comfort, no acknowledgement that anything is wrong. Anne lies there in the dark, confused, worried. Did she do something wrong? Is she supposed to do something? She has no idea. Eventually, maybe an hour later, maybe 2, Henry's breathing changes, becomes deep and regular. That wet rattle as he exhales. He's asleep. Anne doesn't sleep, lies there staring at the curtains, trying to understand what just happened. What was supposed to happen? What happens next? Nothing makes sense. When morning comes, pale light filtering through gaps in the curtains, Henry is gone. Already dressed and left. No one told Anne he was leaving. No one explained. Her ladies come in, cheerful, chattering. They help her dress, ask how the night went. Anne doesn't know what to say, doesn't have words in English or German to describe the confusion. She just smiles, nods, lets them think everything is fine. It's not fine. That same morning, Henry summons his doctors. Dr. William Butts arrives first. He's been Henry's physician for years, knows the king's body intimately, the ulcer, the weight, the increasing health problems. Dr. John Chamber comes next, older than Butts, more experienced, less likely to be shocked by anything. They meet in Henry's private chambers, early, before the court wakes fully. Henry is already dressed, sitting in his chair. His face is set in angry lines. The marriage, he says without preamble. It cannot be consummated. The doctors exchange glances. This is dangerous ground. Royal failures of any kind are dangerous to discuss. Your Majesty, Butts says carefully, these things sometimes require time. Familiarity can. It's not about time. Henry cuts him off. The problem is the Queen. He starts describing Anne's body, in detail, clinical detail that makes even these physicians uncomfortable. Her breasts, he says, are malformed. They hang too low, too loose, like a woman who's given birth multiple times, even though everyone knows she's supposedly a virgin. Her stomach is slack, soft, wrong. The doctors are writing this down, taking notes, because when the king speaks, everything must be documented. But Henry's not finished. When I touched her, he says, and his voice drops, becomes harsh. There was a smell, foul, unnatural. What kind of smell, Your Majesty? Chamber asks. Pen poised over parchment. Like fish, Henry says. Dead fish, rotting. The doctors keep their faces neutral. Write it down. Like something decayed, Henry continues. I tried. I attempted my duties as a husband, but the smell, the sight of her body, I could not. Butts tries again. Your Majesty, sometimes anxiety can affect. I'm not anxious, Henry's voice rises. My body works perfectly well. I still have nightly emissions. I still wake with vigour. The problem is not me. The problem is her. This is the crucial point, the part Henry needs documented. He's not impotent. He's still capable, still virile. The failure is entirely Anne's fault. Could she have an infection, Butts suggests? Something that might cause an odour? Henry seizes on this. Yes, perhaps. Some defect in her body. Something wrong with her from birth. We could examine her, Chamber offers. Determine if there's a medical explanation. Do that, Henry orders. Document everything. I need evidence. Proof that this marriage cannot proceed. The doctors bow. Leave. They're careful men. They know what Henry wants. He wants a medical justification for annulment. He wants Anne's body to be the problem, so his impotence doesn't have to be. And they'll give him what he wants. Because refusing a king's order, especially this king, is suicide. Over the next weeks, Henry continues consulting with his doctors. Each conversation adds more detail, more problems with Anne's body, more reasons why consummation is impossible. He tells them he's tried multiple times, that each time he's been unable to proceed, that the smell, the sight, the wrongness of her body makes arousal impossible. He tells them he's still capable with other women, still has dreams, still wakes aroused, his body works fine. It's just Anne who disgusts him. The doctors document everything, every complaint, every description, every excuse. They also start making subtle inquiries. Is there any way to prove Anne isn't a virgin? Any evidence she's been with another man? Because that would void the marriage contract completely. They find nothing. Anne's life has been supervised since birth. She's never been alone with a man who wasn't family or clergy, but that doesn't matter. Henry doesn't need proof of misconduct. He just needs proof the marriage can't be consummated. And he's building that case, carefully, systematically. Meanwhile, Anne wakes every morning wondering why her husband won't touch her, won't explain, barely speaks to her. She thinks maybe it's her fault. Maybe if she tries harder, learns English faster, adjusts better to English customs. If she knew what Henry was telling his doctors, if she could hear him describe her body as malformed, disgusting, wrong, she'd understand there's nothing she could do to fix this. But the lies are being told behind closed doors, filed away, prepared for the moment when Henry decides he's done pretending. January through June 1540, 6 months that feel like 6 years. Anne wakes every morning around 5:30, before dawn. The winter darkness presses against the windows. Her chamber at Greenwich is cold despite the fire that burns all night. Stone holds cold better than heat. Her German ladies come in to dress her, except there are fewer of them now. By February, only 2 remain. The rest have been sent back to Cleves or reassigned. In their place are English ladies, women Anne can barely speak to, women who report everything back to Henry's advisors. The English ladies are polite, perfectly polite, but Anne can feel them watching, assessing. She knows they gossip about her the moment they leave the room. She doesn't understand all the English words, but she recognises the tone, the speculation. Getting dressed takes an hour. Layer after layer, shift, kirtle, gown, sleeves tied on separately. The elaborate headdress that takes 2 women to position correctly. By the time she's ready, the sun is barely rising. She goes to her private chapel for morning prayers, a small room off her chambers, cold and draughty. She kneels on the hard stone floor. The English chaplain leads prayers in Latin. At least Latin she understands. It's the same in every country. She prays for understanding, for patience, for whatever she's doing wrong to be revealed so she can fix it. She doesn't know there's nothing to fix. The problem isn't her behaviour, it's her existence. After prayers she breaks her fast, alone in her chambers. Her ladies sit with her, but Henry never comes. He takes his meals separately. Always, every single morning. The food is heavy. Bread, cheese, cold meat, small beer. Anne forces herself to eat. She's losing weight. Her gowns hang looser. Her ladies have to take them in. One morning in March, one of her English ladies says something. Anne doesn't catch all the words, but she understands the meaning. The lady is suggesting Anne might be with child, that the loosening gowns might be a sign. Anne has to explain, through halting English and gestures, that no, she's not with child. The marriage isn't consummated. The lady looks confused, then embarrassed, quickly changes the subject. After breakfast comes English lessons. Anne works with her tutor every day, an older man named Master Crawford, who speaks passable German. He's patient but demanding. By April, Anne can understand basic conversation, can respond to simple questions, but complex discussions are still beyond her. She knows just enough English to understand when people are gossiping about her, not enough to defend herself. Master Crawford tries to be encouraging. "Your Grace is progressing admirably," he tells her, but Anne can hear the pity underneath. Around mid-morning, she's supposed to attend to correspondence. She sits at her desk with parchment and ink. But who does she write to? Her brother Wilhelm in Cleves. But his replies are infrequent and cold. He's angry about something. She's not sure what. Politics, probably. The alliance isn't going as planned. Her sister Sibylla. But Sibylla's letters are full of questions Anne doesn't know how to answer. Are you happy? Is the king kind? When will you have children? Anne stares at the parchment and doesn't know what to write. She can't tell the truth. Letters are read by advisors before being sealed. Everything is monitored. So she writes bland pleasantries. I am well, the weather is fine, everyone is most kind. Lies wrapped in diplomatic language. Midday brings dinner, the main meal. On ordinary days, Anne eats in her chambers with her ladies. The conversation happens in English around her. She catches maybe half of it. They're talking about court gossip, about who's in favour, who's fallen from grace, about the king's moods. They stop talking when they remember Anne is there, switch to pleasantries, comment on the food, the weather, safe topics. On formal occasions, state dinners, feast days, Anne has to dine with Henry at the high table. These are torture. She's escorted to the great hall. Everyone rises when she enters, bows, curtsies. She's the queen, in name, in appearance. She sits in the chair beside Henry's, waits for him to arrive. When Henry enters, everyone bows again. He walks to the high table, sits beside her without looking at her, without greeting her, as if she's furniture. The meal proceeds. Course after course, Henry talks to the courtiers on his other side, laughs, jokes, completely animated. Anne sits there, trying to eat, trying to look composed. A servant translates occasional remarks for her. She responds appropriately, smiles, nods, but mostly she's invisible. The queen who isn't really a queen. She watches Henry's face when he talks to others. He's different, warm, engaged, full of life. With her he's cold, distant, dead behind the eyes. What did she do? What's wrong with her? She doesn't understand. After dinner, if she's lucky, there's entertainment, music, dancing, players performing short comedies. Anne loves music, always has. In Cleves, she'd spend hours listening to musicians. She can't play instruments herself, wasn't trained in that, but she appreciates skilled performance. Here in England, the music is different. Faster, more complex harmonies, but still beautiful. She can lose herself in it for a while, forget her confusion and isolation. Dancing is harder. Anne tries, she really tries. She practices the steps with her ladies, learns the patterns, but English dancing requires more than memorization. It requires personality, flirtation, sparkle. Anne doesn't sparkle. She's careful, methodical, German. Sometimes Henry watches from the gallery above. Anne doesn't know he's there, but her ladies do. They stiffen, become nervous, try harder to make Anne look graceful. It doesn't work. Anne gets the steps right, but looks wooden doing them. The English courtiers dancing nearby flow and spin effortlessly. Anne looks like she's counting in her head, which she is. One evening in April, Anne is dancing, concentrating hard on the steps when she makes a mistake. Turns the wrong way, bumps into her partner. It's a small thing. Everyone makes mistakes. But she hears laughter, looks up. Henry is in the gallery watching. He's laughing. Not kindly, mockingly. He says something to the courtier beside him. They both laugh. Anne feels her face burn. She finishes the dance, goes back to her seat, smiles as if nothing happened. Inside, she's crumbling. That night, lying in bed beside Henry, because yes, they still share a bed several nights a week, she lies awake for hours, staring at the curtain fabric, wondering what she's doing wrong. Henry's asleep, that wet rattle with each exhale. He's turned away from her, always turns away. Anne doesn't cry. She's learned not to cry. Crying achieves nothing, just makes her face puffy in the morning. But she feels hollow, empty, like she's disappearing piece by piece. By May, something shifts. Anne starts noticing one of her ladies in waiting, a girl who can't be more than 18, small, dark-haired, pretty in that very English way, rosebud mouth, pale skin, big eyes. Her name is Catherine Howard. At first, Anne doesn't think much of it. Catherine is one of many ladies. They all blur together in Anne's mind. But then Anne notices Catherine wearing new jewellery, a gold chain, expensive, the kind of thing wealthy patrons give to favoured servants. Then a brooch, garnets set in gold, then pearl earrings. Anne recognises some of the pieces. They look familiar. She's certain she's seen them before, but can't place where. Then one morning in late May, Catherine comes to help Anne dress. She's wearing a ruby brooch pinned to her bodice, heart-shaped, surrounded by tiny diamonds. Anne stares at it. She knows that brooch. She wore it at her coronation. It was a wedding gift from Henry. She'd worn it once and then put it away in her jewellery casket because wearing it seemed to make Henry angry for some reason. And now Catherine is wearing it. Anne's German lady, one of the two remaining, sees Anne's face, sees what she's looking at, whispers in rapid German, "Don't say anything, please, Your Grace, just ignore it." Anne says nothing, but now she's watching, really watching. Catherine appears more often in the king's presence, sits nearer to him at meals, laughs loudly at his jokes, touches his arm when she speaks to him. Henry transforms around her, becomes animated, youthful. He smiles, actually smiles. His whole face changes. Anne watches this happen, watches her husband fall in love with her lady-in-waiting. Right in front of her. The courtiers are watching too. The whispers intensify. Anne doesn't need to understand all the English words. She can read faces, read room dynamics. Everyone knows what's happening. Everyone except maybe Catherine, who seems oblivious to how dangerous this is. One evening in early June, there's a feast. Anne sits at the high table beside Henry. Catherine is seated further down with the other ladies. Henry keeps looking at Catherine. His eyes follow her constantly. When she laughs, he smiles. When she stands to refill her wine cup, he watches her walk across the room. Anne sits right beside him. He hasn't looked at her once all evening. At one point, a courtier makes a joke. Everyone at the high table laughs. Anne laughs too, though she only caught half the English words. Henry turns to her. For the first time all evening, he actually looks at her. "You don't even understand what he said," Henry says in English, loud enough that nearby courtiers hear. Anne's smile freezes. She doesn't know how to respond. Henry turns away, back to watching Catherine. Anne sits there, still smiling, still composed, but inside something breaks. She understands now. She's being replaced. The details don't matter. The politics don't matter. All that matters is that her husband has found someone else. Someone English. Someone young and pretty and sparkling. Someone who isn't her. And there's nothing Anne can do. She's in a foreign country. Doesn't speak the language well. Has no allies except two German ladies who are just as powerless as she is. Has no money of her own. No way to leave. She's trapped, and everyone knows it. The feast continues. Music plays. People eat and drink and laugh. Anne sits at the high table, the queen, in a gown worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, with a crown on her head, and she's never felt more powerless in her life. That night, sharing a bed with Henry for what will turn out to be one of the last times, Anne lies awake. Henry falls asleep quickly. The ale and wine from the feast help. He's snoring within minutes. Anne stares at the canopy, thinking. Something is going to happen. She doesn't know what, but you don't publicly court another woman while your wife watches unless you're planning something. Anne thinks about Catherine of Aragon, Henry's first wife, the one he divorced to marry Anne Boleyn. Catherine was exiled, stripped of her title, forbidden from seeing her daughter. She died alone, bitter, broken. Anne thinks about Anne Boleyn, Henry's second wife, the one he'd loved passionately before turning against her completely. Anne Boleyn was executed, beheaded on false charges of adultery and treason, dead at 33. Jane Seymour, the third wife, died in childbirth. Not Henry's fault directly, but still, dead. 3 wives, 1 exiled, 1 executed, 1 dead. Anne is the 4th wife, and Henry clearly doesn't want her anymore. What happens to 4th wives? Anne lies there in the dark beside a man who despises her, and she makes a decision. Whatever Henry wants, whatever he's planning, she's going to cooperate completely, without resistance, without demands, without causing any problems whatsoever. Because the women who fight Henry end up dead or broken. The women who make his life difficult pay for it. But maybe, a woman who makes things easy for him, who gives him everything he wants without forcing him to work for it, who helps him get what he wants, and then disappears quietly. Maybe that woman gets to live. It's not much of a plan. It's not noble or dignified or any of the things a queen should be, but it might be survival. And survival, Anne is learning, is worth any price, even dignity, even truth, even participating in your own destruction. If that's what it takes to live, Anne will do it. She lies there beside Henry, already planning her own graceful defeat. Because in June 1540, Anne of Cleves figures out what none of Henry's other wives understood. Sometimes, the only way to win is to lose perfectly. Anne is Queen of England on paper. She has the title, the crown, the apartments at Greenwich, the ladies in waiting. But she's not really queen. Let me tell you what her actual days were like. She wakes around 6. Her German ladies dress her, but Henry is replacing them, slowly, one by one, with English women who report everything back to him. By March, Anne has only 2 German ladies left. The rest are English, women she can't fully communicate with, who watch her constantly, who whisper in corners. She breaks her fast alone. Henry never joins her. He eats separately. He's avoiding her. After breakfast, English lessons. A tutor who speaks some German. By April, she can understand basic phrases. By June, she can have simple conversations. But it's slow, painful. Then she's supposed to attend to correspondence. But who does she write to? Her brother barely responds. Her mother is dead. She has no friends here. So she sits pretending to write letters, while her English ladies embroider and gossip. Midday meal. Alone. Unless there's a state occasion where Henry's required to dine with her. Then they sit beside each other in front of the entire court. He barely speaks. When he does, it's through interpreters, and only the minimum protocol requires. Anne smiles, tries to make conversation. Everyone can see it's not working. Can see Henry wince when she speaks. Avoid looking at her. The courtiers gossip. Why doesn't the king touch his wife? Is she barren, deformed? Anne hears the whispers, even though she doesn't understand all the English. She knows something is very wrong. Afternoons she tries to entertain herself. She learns English card games. She's terrible at first, but by summer she's quite good. It becomes one of her few pleasures. She also starts learning English dancing. This is torture. German dances are stately and formal. English dances are faster, require improvisation, flirtation. Anne is methodical and careful. She learns the steps, but can't capture the spirit. Henry watches sometimes from the gallery above, watches her fumble, watches her try so hard and fail. It makes him hate her more, because her effort highlights his rejection. She's not terrible and uncaring. She's trying and still not good enough. That makes him the problem. And Henry can never be the problem. Evening meals. Another round of forced proximity. Anne sits beside Henry at the high table. He talks to everyone except her, laughs with courtiers, flirts with younger ladies in waiting, makes a show of ignoring his wife. Anne eats carefully, trying not to draw attention. She's lost weight. Stress will do that. Around 9, she's taken to the royal bedchamber. This is the worst part, because Henry still shares her bed. Not every night, but often enough that people assume the marriage must be consummated. Anne's ladies undress her, put her in her nightgown. She climbs into the enormous bed and waits. Henry arrives. His gentlemen undress him. He gets in beside her, and then nothing. He lies on his side. She lies on hers. Sometimes there's 3 feet between them. Neither speaks, neither touches. Sometimes Henry falls asleep quickly. Anne can hear his wet, rattling snore. Sometimes he lies awake for hours, tense, angry, radiating resentment. Anne tries not to move, not to draw attention, just lies there perfectly still until exhaustion drags her under. In the morning, Henry is always gone before she wakes. This is her life, day after day, week after week, and she has no idea why. But then sometime in March, she starts noticing something. One of her ladies in waiting, a young girl, maybe 18, tiny, cute English, dark hair and a heart-shaped face, Catherine Howard. Anne notices that Henry pays attention to her, talks to her, smiles at her, looks at her the way he's never looked at Anne. Then Catherine starts wearing new jewellery, expensive jewellery, the kind Henry gives to women he's interested in. And here's the detail that must have stabbed. Some of it is the same jewellery Henry gave Anne 6 months earlier. The same pieces. He's literally recycling Anne's wedding gifts. Anne recognises a particular ruby brooch. She'd worn it at her coronation. Now it's pinned to Catherine's bodice. Catherine doesn't know, doesn't realise she's wearing the rejected wife's cast-offs. But Anne knows. Catherine starts appearing more often, sitting closer to the king, dancing with him, laughing at his jokes. And Anne understands. She's being replaced, right in front of her eyes, by one of her own ladies. What does she do? Nothing. What can she do? She's in a foreign country, doesn't speak English well, has no allies, no money of her own, no way to leave. She's trapped. So she watches her husband fall in love with her lady-in-waiting while she's still queen, still married, still sleeping in the same bed as him every night where they don't touch. By May, it's obvious to everyone at court. The king is pursuing Catherine Howard openly while his wife watches. The courtiers don't even hide their gossip. They talk about it in front of Anne. In English, she now understands enough to get the meaning. She understands she's lost. But somewhere in those 6 months, Anne figures something out, something that will save her life. If she makes this easy for Henry, if she cooperates, if she doesn't cause scandal, if she lets him have his way, maybe he'll let her live. It's not much of a plan, but it's all she has. June 1540, everything accelerates. June 24th, Thomas Cromwell arrested during a council meeting, charged with treason and heresy. He's the man who arranged the Cleves marriage. His career depends on it being successful. It's not successful, so Cromwell has to go. And here's something that doesn't get talked about. When Cromwell is arrested, Anne's remaining German ladies are immediately dismissed, sent back to Cleves within days. Anne doesn't even get to say goodbye properly. Suddenly she's completely alone. No one who speaks her native language. No one who knew her before England. Just English ladies who report everything to Henry's council. Total isolation before the annulment even begins. 3 days after Cromwell's arrest, Henry summons his council, announces he believes his marriage to Anne is invalid, never properly consummated. Grounds for annulment exist. He presents his evidence, his own testimony, his doctor's testimony, every degrading detail carefully documented. But church law requires both parties to testify. Anne has to admit the marriage was never consummated, has to agree it should be annulled. And if she refuses, if she insists the marriage is valid, this could drag on for years like his divorce from Catherine of Aragon. Henry can't afford that. He's already in love with Catherine Howard, already planning the next wedding. So he sends a delegation to Richmond Palace, where Anne has been quietly exiled. A group of councillors, there to discuss the situation. Anne receives them, still has no idea what's really happening. They're careful, diplomatic. They say there are questions about the marriage's validity. Would she answer some questions? Anne agrees. Of course she agrees. Have you and the king consummated the marriage? She says no, they haven't. Do you believe the marriage is valid? This is the crucial question. Anne hesitates. She can feel the trap closing. The councillors explain very carefully what will happen if she cooperates. If she agrees the marriage is invalid, she'll be treated with honour, given estates, a generous income, called the king's beloved sister. And if she doesn't cooperate, they don't say explicitly, but Anne knows. She's seen what happened to Henry's previous wives. Catherine of Aragon, exiled and broken. Anne Boleyn, executed. Resistance means death. So she agrees, signs documents, testifies that the marriage was never consummated, that she's still a virgin, that she never truly felt married to Henry. It's a lie, or a distortion. The marriage wasn't consummated, true, but that wasn't her choice. She'd been willing. It was Henry who refused, Henry who couldn't perform, Henry who invented reasons why it was her fault. But none of that matters. Anne has to participate in her own destruction, has to agree she's defective, because the alternative is death. But before the annulment can be finalised, church law requires one more thing: physical proof that Anne is still a virgin, which means examination by male doctors, who will testify about what they find. The examination takes place at Richmond, in her own chambers, the place where she's supposed to feel safe. 3 doctors arrive: Dr. William Butts, Dr. John Chamber, Dr. George Owen, all men who've served the royal household for years, who've attended births, who've examined queens before. They're professional, clinical. They explain what needs to happen: physical evidence of virginity, proof the marriage was never consummated. Anne's ladies prepare her. They try to be kind, tell her it'll be quick. The doctors are professionals. They've done this before. Anne nods. This is required. This is the price of cooperation. They help her undress, remove her gown, her kirtle, her corset, everything, until she's wearing only a thin shift. She lies on the bed, as instructed, the bed in her own chamber, where she sleeps. Now it's an examination table. The examination is internal, clinical, impersonal. The doctors are checking for tissue configuration, for signs of previous penetration, for physical evidence that will satisfy the council. Anne stares at the canopy above the bed, focuses on the fabric patterns, counts the pleats, anything to be somewhere else in her mind. The doctors discuss their findings, right there, while examining her, speaking English medical terminology. Intact tissue, configuration. They're discussing her body like it's evidence, which it is. That's exactly what it is to them. The examination lasts maybe 20 minutes. Anne endures it without protest, without tears. Just lies there because resisting is pointless and dangerous. When they're finally done, they step back. Tell Anne she can dress. They'll report their findings to the council. They leave, close the door. Anne's ladies rush to help her. One of them, her last remaining German lady, is crying softly, saying something in rapid German about how wrong this is. Anne doesn't cry. She sits up slowly, lets them help her dress, drinks the wine they bring, but something inside her has changed. She's just been examined by strange men who will now testify about her body to the king's council. Intimate details that will be written down, filed away, made official. This is what cooperation costs. This is what survival requires. That evening, Anne sits by her window, looking out at Richmond's gardens. It's July. Everything is green and growing. She survived today. That's what matters. The examination is over. The annulment will proceed. Tomorrow she'll be gracious again. Cooperative. The perfect, grateful divorcee. But tonight, she just sits and breathes and reminds herself that being alive is worth any price, even this. The doctors testify, present their findings to the council, under oath. Anne of Cleves is intact, still a virgin, no signs of penetration. The marriage was never consummated. This supports Henry's case perfectly. The marriage is invalid. The council accepts the testimony, declares the marriage null and void. Anne is no longer queen. She's the king's beloved sister. The annulment is official on July 9th, 1540, record time for ending a royal marriage. Anne signs all the documents, every paper requiring her signature. Cooperative, gracious. Only after everyone leaves does she allow herself to feel something. Relief, horror, shame, anger, grief. Probably all of those things at once. She stays in her chamber for the rest of the day. Her ladies bring food. She barely touches it. When she emerges the next day, she's composed, calm. The gracious noblewoman accepting her fate with dignity. This is what survival looks like. The annulment is granted July 9th, 1540, less than 2 weeks after Cromwell's arrest. The grounds: non-consummation, due to Anne's physical unsuitability and Henry's lack of true consent. Anne is no longer queen. She's now Anne of Cleves, the king's beloved sister. She's given Richmond Palace and Hever Castle, £4,000 a year. Precedence at court over every woman, except the current wife and Henry's daughters. It sounds generous. Everyone says she got the best deal of any of Henry's wives. But let's examine what that actually means. She can't leave England. Ever. This isn't optional. She has to stay, under English law, within Henry's reach, because letting her leave would be politically dangerous. She could tell the truth, create diplomatic problems. She can't remarry. Sisters don't marry. Sisters remain perpetually attached to their brother's household. This keeps her dependent, harmless. She has to maintain the fiction. The official story is that the marriage was never valid. That Anne agreed from the start, that she'd always seen herself as the king's sister. Anne can't contradict this, ever. If she publicly says, "Actually, I was his wife and he rejected me," that's accusing the king of lying. That's treason. Treason means execution. She has to attend Henry's subsequent weddings. Henry marries Catherine Howard 3 weeks after the annulment. Anne attends, smiling, congratulating them. Your ex-husband marrying your former lady-in-waiting less than a month after divorcing you, and you have to stand there and wish them happiness. She has to attend court functions when summoned. Can't refuse. When the king wants his beloved sister present, she comes. She curtsies. She's pleasant. Her estates are granted for life. If she violates any condition, leaves England, remarries, contradicts the official story, they're taken back. She can't sell them, can't mortgage them. They're hers to live in. Nothing more. Her income of £4,000 sounds enormous, but it has to cover maintaining multiple estates, paying 40 servants, clothing herself for court, food for her household, horses, gifts for royal occasions, charity, entertainment, everything. Anne manages it carefully. Her household accounts show constant budgeting. Her status at court is high technically. She has precedence over everyone, except the current queen and Henry's daughters. But she has no power, no influence. She can't advocate for people, can't petition the king. She's decorative, present but powerless. This is the best deal. Comfortable captivity, beautiful cages, enough money to live but not enough to be independent. High status but no authority. Freedom from execution, but not freedom to leave, to remarry, to tell the truth. Survival, on Henry's terms, completely, permanently. Anne can't make any life decision without considering, will this anger Henry? Will this violate the agreement? She lives 7 more years under Henry's reign. 7 years of being carefully, perfectly cooperative, never putting a foot wrong. And it works. Henry leaves her alone, lets her live quietly, probably forgets about her. She's made herself invisible, and invisibility is safety. But while Anne is settling into her careful, quiet life at Richmond, Catherine Howard is living the life Anne lost. Young Catherine, 19 years old, pretty and petite and everything Anne wasn't. She knows how to flirt, how to dance, how to make a middle-aged king feel like a young man again. Henry marries her on July 28, 1540, 3 weeks after Anne's annulment. Barely enough time for the ink to dry on the documents. There's no grand ceremony. Henry wants to keep it relatively quiet. Doesn't want people comparing, noting how quickly he moved from one wife to the next. But Anne knows, everyone at court knows, and Anne does what she's promised herself she'll do. She sends congratulations, a gift, some expensive fabric or jewellery. The records aren't clear on exactly what. But something appropriate, something that says, I accept this, I'm fine with this, no hard feelings. Catherine probably doesn't even notice. She's too busy being queen, too busy wearing the crown, sleeping in the bed, sitting in the chair that used to be Anne's. Anne hears reports. Catherine is charming, vivacious, the court loves her. Henry is besotted. He gives her jewels, estates, anything she wants. Some of the jewels Anne recognises from descriptions, her wedding gifts, being recycled, given to the new wife. Anne says nothing, does nothing. just lives quietly at Richmond, plays her cards, wears her pretty dresses, stays out of the way. For 18 months, Catherine is queen. She seems happy, secure. She has Henry's complete devotion, but Catherine is young and careless, and she doesn't understand how dangerous it is to be Henry's wife. Before she married Henry, Catherine had lovers, young men, age-appropriate relationships that seemed normal to her. She was a teenager in a noble household. These things happened, but she didn't disclose this to Henry, didn't tell him she wasn't a virgin when they married, didn't think it mattered. It mattered. And then, and this part is less clear, there were rumours that Catherine had taken a lover after marrying Henry, a young man named Thomas Culpeper. Whether it was consummated or just flirtation, the evidence was murky, but it didn't have to be true. It just had to be believable. In November 5141, someone talked. Someone always talks. A woman who'd known Catherine before her marriage, who had grievances, who decided to share information with the right people. The investigation began, quietly at first, then more aggressively. Catherine's past relationships were documented. Letters were found, or perhaps created. Witnesses were questioned, or perhaps coerced. Catherine was arrested, stripped of her title, imprisoned. The evidence was presented to Henry, his fifth wife, the one he'd loved so passionately, the one who'd made him feel young. She'd deceived him, lied to him, possibly betrayed him. Henry's rage was legendary. He wept, screamed, talked about killing her himself. The court tiptoed around him, terrified. The men involved, or allegedly involved, were executed first, tortured, beheaded, their heads displayed on London Bridge. Catherine was kept in prison for months, through winter, in cold stone rooms, with no certainty about her fate. She was 21 years old, probably terrified, probably regretted every careless decision she'd ever made. In February 1542, Parliament passed a Bill of Attainder. Catherine Howard was guilty of treason. The sentence? Death. February 13th, 1542, the Tower of London. Catherine is brought out to the scaffold, the same scaffold where Anne Boleyn died, where countless traitors have died. It's early morning, cold, a small crowd has gathered. Executions of queens don't happen often. People want to witness history. Catherine has to walk from her cell to the scaffold. Her legs barely hold her, guards support her. She's wearing a simple grey gown. No jewels, no crown. Nothing marking her as having once been queen. She climbs the steps to the scaffold. The wooden platform is still stained from previous executions. The block is in the centre, dark with old blood. The executioner is waiting, masked, holding the axe. Catherine is supposed to make a speech. Tradition requires it. Confession, acceptance of judgment, plea for the king's mercy on her soul. She tries. Her voice shakes. She can barely get the words out. Something about being justly condemned, about praying for the king, about accepting her fate. No one can hear her properly. She's crying, shaking, barely 21 years old and about to die. She kneels at the block, has to be positioned correctly. The executioner needs a clean angle. They tie a cloth over her eyes. She's trembling so hard the whole scaffold shakes. The executioner raises the axe. The crowd goes. Silent. One swing. Clean. Professional. Catherine Howard's head falls into the basket prepared for it. Her body slumps. Blood spreads across the wooden platform. The crowd disperses. The body is wrapped in cloth, buried quickly. Unmarked grave. No ceremony. Nothing marking that this was once a queen. Anne hears about it. Everyone hears about it. It's all anyone talks about for weeks. The king's fifth wife, dead. Just like the second wife, both executed for adultery, both young, both dead. Anne is at Richmond when the news arrives. One of her ladies tells her, quietly, unsure how Anne will react. Anne's face doesn't change. She thanks the lady for the information, says something appropriate about praying for Catherine's soul. Then she goes to her private chapel. kneels, and prays. What is she thinking? We don't know. She left no record, but she must be thinking about how close she came to that fate. If she'd fought the annulment, if she'd insisted on her rights, if she'd caused problems or made demands. Henry could have accused her of anything, could have manufactured evidence, could have had her executed just like Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. But she didn't fight, she cooperated, she made it easy, and she's alive, in her comfortable palace, playing cards, wearing pretty dresses. While Catherine Howard, pretty, young, English Catherine, who had everything Anne didn't, is dead. What does Anne feel? Relief, vindication, horror? Probably all three. She's survived. She's won. Not the way she wanted. Not with dignity or truth or justice, but she's alive. And in Henry VIII's England, that's the only victory that matters. Anne finishes her prayers, returns to her chambers. Her ladies are waiting, subdued, uncertain. "Shall we play cards, Your Grace?" one asks tentatively. Anne nods. "Yes, let's play." They set up the table, deal the cards, play as if nothing happened. Because what else can they do? Catherine's death doesn't change Anne's life, doesn't affect her daily existence. She's still Henry's beloved sister, still living on his generosity, still bound by the terms of their agreement. The only difference is now, she knows, really knows, that she made the right choice. Fight Henry and you die. Submit to Henry and you live. It's a brutal lesson, but Anne has learned it well. Henry marries again. Of course he does. He's only 50 years old, still needs more sons, still needs a wife. His sixth wife is Catherine Parr, a widow, 31 years old, intelligent, educated, Protestant. Everything Catherine Howard wasn't. Anne meets her eventually, some formal court function. They're polite to each other, cordial. Catherine Parr is smart. She can see what happened to the wives before her. She's careful, diplomatic. She manages Henry's moods expertly, keeps him calm, makes herself useful. She survives. Barely. There's a moment in 1546 where Henry almost has her arrested for heresy. She has to grovel, apologise, convince him she's completely submissive. It works. She lives. When Henry dies in 1547, Catherine Parr is free. She marries for love. Her fourth husband has a child, dies in childbirth a year later. But she got more than Anne Boleyn or Catherine Howard. She got to outlive Henry, got to remarry, got 1 year of freedom. Anne outlives them all. Anne gets 17 years after Henry's death. 17 years of peace. That's the real victory. When Henry dies in 1547, Anne must have felt something. She's at Richmond when the news arrives. A messenger. Formal announcement. His Majesty King Henry VIII has passed. Long live King Edward VI. Henry is dead. After 7 years of knowing he could destroy her at any moment. 7 years of walking carefully, of never putting a foot wrong, of being perfectly, boringly cooperative. He's dead, and she's alive. What does Anne feel? Relief, certainly. The man who'd humiliated her, who'd spread lies about her body, who'd held her life in his hands for 7 years. He's gone. But also uncertainty. What happens now? Edward is 9 years old, too young to rule. England will be governed by a regency council. Will they honour Henry's settlement, or will they see Anne as unnecessary expense and strip her of everything? For weeks, Anne waits, anxious. But the council sends word. Nothing changes. Her estates remain hers. Her income continues. Her status as the king's sister is upheld. Anne breathes again. Edward VI's reign is short. He's sickly. Dies at 15 in 1553. Never really gets to rule. The Regency Council runs everything. Then Mary becomes queen. Henry's daughter from his first marriage. Catherine of Aragon's child. A woman who watched her mother be destroyed by Henry. Who was declared illegitimate. Who survived through sheer determination. Mary remembers Anne. Remembers the kindness, the friendship. When Mary is crowned in 1553, Anne attends the coronation. She's given a prominent place. Mary makes sure of it. After the ceremony, Mary seeks Anne out, embraces her, thanks her for coming. "You were always kind to me," Mary says, "when others weren't." Anne is moved, nearly in tears. For the first time since becoming the king's sister, she feels genuinely honoured, genuinely welcome. Mary raises Anne's income slightly, invites her to court more often. They develop a real friendship, as real as friendships can be between a queen and a noblewoman. They play cards together. Mary loves cards as much as Anne does. They're well-matched players, both strategic, both patient. They can play for hours. They discuss books. Mary is deeply religious, Catholic where her father was Protestant. But she's also educated, cultured. They can talk about philosophy, theology, history. They never talk about Henry. That subject is off limits. Too painful for both of them. Anne's life settles into comfortable routine. She spends most of her time at Richmond. Beautiful palace, well maintained. Her household runs smoothly. She has good servants, people who've been with her for years, who know her habits, who are loyal. Her days have rhythm now, predictable, safe. She wakes around 7, later than she used to. No need to rise at dawn anymore. Her ladies help her dress. She chooses her own clothes now. Wears what she likes, rich fabrics, bright colours. She's partial to green, to crimson, to cloth of gold when she wants to feel especially grand. Morning prayers in her private chapel. Then breakfast. She eats well. Has regained the weight she lost during those miserable 6 months of marriage. Her cooks know her preferences. German dishes when she's homesick. English favourites when she wants comfort. Mornings are for household business. Meeting with her steward. Going over accounts. Anne is careful with money. Always has been. She knows exactly what she has, what she can afford. She runs her household efficiently. She also handles correspondence. She writes to Mary regularly. To a few German relatives, though those relationships are strained. To friends she's made over the years. English noblewomen who've been kind to her. Midday brings dinner, usually with her ladies, sometimes with guests. Anne has developed a reputation as a gracious hostess. People enjoy visiting Richmond. The food is good, the conversation pleasant. Anne herself is welcoming without being overbearing. Afternoons are for leisure. This is when Anne plays cards, her favourite time of day. She's good at cards, really good. Plays several different games, Primero, More, Imperial. Enjoys the strategy, the psychology, reading other players, knowing when to bet and when to fold. She plays for money, real stakes. Her household accounts show regular entries. Lost at cards, threilhuis. Won at cards, 70. Sometimes she loses substantially. Once she loses $40 in a single evening, a huge sum. But she also wins. Over the years she probably breaks even. Maybe comes out slightly ahead. Her ladies play with her. Visiting nobles play with her. Sometimes male courtiers visit and play. It's all proper, chaperoned. But Anne enjoys having intelligent opponents. One of her regular card partners is a nobleman named Sir Thomas Carden. He visits Richmond frequently. Stays for days sometimes. They play cards for hours. Anne wins more often than he does. He doesn't seem to mind. There's gossip about this. Whispers that maybe Sir Thomas is more than a card partner. That maybe Anne has taken a lover. The gossip is almost certainly wrong. Anne is too careful for that. Too aware of the conditions of her settlement. No remarriage, no scandal. No giving Henry's successors any reason to take everything back. But she enjoys the friendship. Enjoys having someone to talk to. Someone who treats her like a person, not like the king's sister. She also spends money on clothes. Lots of money. Her wardrobe accounts are extensive. Gowns in every colour. Sleeves that can be mixed and matched. Kirtles, headdresses, jewellery. She's making up for those months of trying to please Henry, of wearing what she thought he'd like, of trying to look English enough, pretty enough, acceptable enough. Now she dresses for herself, and she looks magnificent. She gives to charity regularly. To the poor at the gate appears frequently in her accounts. She has a reputation for generosity. People come to Richmond knowing the king's sister helps those in need. She supports specific individuals too: widows, orphans, servants who've fallen on hard times. She remembers what it felt like to be powerless, to need help. She makes sure others get the help she once needed. Evenings are quiet, music sometimes. Anne employs musicians, enjoys listening to them play. She never learned to play instruments herself, wasn't trained that way, but she appreciates skilled performance. Reading. Anne reads more now. Her English is fluent after all these years. She reads religious texts, histories, occasionally poetry, though she prefers prose, early to bed, usually by 9 or 10. She sleeps well these days. No anxiety, no fear, no husband who despises her lying beside her radiating resentment. Just peace, comfortable bed, good blankets, sleep that comes easily and lasts through the night. This is her life for 17 years, comfortable, peaceful, free. She attends court functions when required, Mary's coronation, state occasions. She plays her role perfectly, the king's sister, always appropriate, always gracious, but she's happiest at Richmond, in her own space, with her own people, living quietly. She never sees Henry's body when he dies, never attends his funeral. She's not invited, probably wouldn't want to go anyway. She never visits his tomb, never pays respects. Why would she? He tried to destroy her, made up lies about her body, forced her to participate in her own humiliation. She outlives him by 10 years. 10 years of peace he never got. He dies in pain, in paranoia, in the stench of his own rotting leg. She dies peacefully, in her own bed, surrounded by people who care about her. That's victory. Not in the way she'd imagined when she crossed the Channel at 24, but victory nonetheless. Summer, 15 May 57. Anne is 41 years old. She's been feeling unwell for months, tired, weak, pain in her abdomen. At first she dismisses it. She's getting older, bodies slow down, but it gets worse, the pain intensifies. She loses appetite, loses more weight. Her ladies are worried. They bring doctors. The doctors examine her, shake their heads. Likely a tumour, cancer, nothing to be done. How long? Perhaps months, perhaps weeks. Anne takes the news calmly. She's lived longer than most people in the 16th century. Longer than any of Henry's other wives, except Catherine Parr, and Catherine only survived him by a year. Anne has had 17 years after him. 17 good years. She makes her will. Carefully, specifically. Leaves bequests to all her servants. Generous amounts. They've been loyal. They deserve to be taken care of. She leaves money to the poor, to specific charities, to friends who've been kind to her. She arranges her funeral. Westminster Abbey. Nothing grand, but respectable, appropriate for someone of her rank. She writes to Mary, thanks her for years of friendship, asks her to look after Anne's remaining German ladies. To make sure they're cared for, Mary writes back, promises to honour all of Anne's wishes, sends her own physician, offers anything Anne needs. Anne is grateful, writes back thanking her. It's one of her last letters. July 1537. Anne is confined to bed now. Too weak to rise, the pain is constant, but she has medicines that help. Opiates. They make her drowsy. Confused sometimes, but they ease the suffering. Her ladies take turns sitting with her, reading to her, praying with her, keeping her company so she's not alone. Anne drifts in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she's lucid, speaks clearly, thanks her ladies for their service, for their kindness. Sometimes she's confused, speaks in German, thinks she's back in Cleves, calls for her mother, who's been dead for decades. On July 16th, 1557, Anne of Cleves dies peacefully, in her sleep. No pain at the end, just sleep that doesn't end. Her ladies weep, her servants weep. Word is sent to Mary, to the council, to everyone who needs to know. The king's sister is dead. Long may she rest. She's buried at Westminster Abbey. not with great pomp, but respectfully. Her coffin is carried in procession, proper ceremony, proper prayers. Her tomb is modest, a simple stone marker. Her epitaph identifies her as Anne of Cleves, sister of Henry VIII. Not wife, sister. The lie she agreed to tell, the lie that saved her life. The tomb is placed in a side chapel, not the main area where kings and queens rest, but honourably, respectfully. For centuries, that's where she lies, the forgotten wife, the one who survived, the one people don't talk about much because her story doesn't fit the pattern. She wasn't martyred like Catherine of Aragon, wasn't executed like Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard, didn't die in childbirth like Jane Seymour, didn't barely escape execution like Catherine Parr. She just lived, quietly, peacefully, for nearly 2 decades after leaving Henry's court. That should be celebrated, should be remembered as the victory it was. But for a long time, she's just the ugly wife, the one Henry rejected, the Flanders Mare, the punchline. Only recently have historians started recognising what Anne actually accomplished, how brilliant her strategy was, how difficult it must have been to smile through that humiliation, to cooperate with her own destruction, to live for 17 years under conditions dictated by her ex-husband. She survived, against all odds, in a time when survival was never guaranteed, when being Henry's wife was one of the most dangerous positions in England. She figured out what the others didn't, that sometimes you win by losing gracefully, that survival requires sacrifice, that dignity is worthless if you're dead. Anne of Cleves chose life, and she lived it well, comfortably, peacefully, on her own terms once Henry was gone. That's the real story. Not that she was ugly, not that Henry rejected her, but that she survived his rejection, outlived his cruelty, and died peacefully in her own bed after 17 years of freedom. That's worth remembering, worth celebrating, worth recognising as the extraordinary achievement it was. So Anne lived quietly at Richmond. She developed routines, played cards every afternoon. She was quite good, sometimes gambling substantial sums. She spent extravagantly on clothing now that no one was judging her appearance. Green velvet, crimson silk, cloth of gold. She wasn't dressing for a husband, she was dressing for herself. She gave to charity. Her accounts show regular payments to the poor at the gate, for the relief of widows. She had a reputation for generosity. She maintained her household with care. Her servants seemed genuinely fond of her. Not because she was permissive, she ran a tight operation, but because she was fair, kind, paid well, didn't rage or throw things. She lived like this for 17 years after Henry's death, comfortable, peaceful, free from fear, until July 1557. She fell ill in June, probably cancer. She knew she was dying, had time to prepare, made her will, left bequests to her servants. On July 16th, she died, peacefully, in her own bed, surrounded by her ladies. No drama, no execution, no disgrace, just a woman dying of natural causes at 41. She was buried at Westminster Abbey, not with full Queen's honours, but respectfully, a proper tomb. Her epitaph identifies her as the sister of Henry VIII. Not wife, sister, the lie she'd agreed to tell, the lie that saved her life. So what's the real story of Anne of Cleves? Not that she was ugly, not that she smelled bad, not that Henry rejected her because something was wrong with her. The real story is that a 24-year-old woman walked into an impossible situation, marriage to Henry VIII, and found a way not just to survive, but to live well afterward. She did it by understanding something the other wives didn't. Henry's ego was more dangerous than his temper. The way to survive him wasn't to fight for dignity or rights or truth. It was to give up all of those things in exchange for life itself. She participated in her own humiliation. Let Henry spread lies about her body. Let doctors examine her, sign documents calling herself defective, attended his next wedding with a smile. She made it easy for him, so easy that he got bored and moved on. And then she had 17 years of peace, of playing cards and wearing pretty dresses and living without fear. Henry died in 1547, his body so swollen with decay it exploded before they could bury him. He'd gone through 6 wives, 2 executions, left England in chaos. Anne died in 1557, 10 years after him, peacefully. She outlived everyone who'd participated in her humiliation. Cromwell, the doctors, Catherine Howard, Henry himself, even Edward, Henry's precious male heir. She outlived all of them. The woman they said was too defective to consummate with. The woman forced to participate in her own destruction. The woman who had to smile through it all. She won by losing gracefully, by making herself so boring, so cooperative, so unthreatening that the monster forgot about her. And then she lived, quietly, comfortably, free. That's not justice, it's not vindication, but it's victory nonetheless. The kind that comes from understanding the game is rigged and playing it anyway. From knowing that sometimes survival requires sacrifice. From lasting long enough to become free. Anne of Cleves figured out what Henry's other wives didn't. Power doesn't care about dignity. It doesn't care about truth, but it does get bored. And if you're boring enough, it might just let you live. Thanks for staying with me tonight. If you made it this far, drop a comment. Tell me what surprised you most. Had you heard this version of Anne's story before? And if you want more stories like this, women who survived impossible circumstances, who found ways through systems designed to destroy them, subscribe, because history is full of these stories. Women who were humiliated and forced to participate in their own destruction, who survived anyway. Sleep well or don't. Sometimes the truth is too powerful to sleep through. Anne of Cleves survived by submitting, by agreeing her body was wrong, by letting Henry's lies become history, and she got to live, comfortably, peacefully, for 17 years longer than she would have if she'd fought. That's not weakness, that's strategy, that's understanding the game and playing it perfectly. The dead fish queen wasn't disgusting, she was brilliant, and she won by losing in exactly the right way. Good night.